This is a big weekend for Pokemon, and there are a bunch of events happening, and we have to talk about what is probably the craziest top 8 I've ever seen. Hey, Nick from 9cardTCG, and today we're going to be talking specifically about the Brisbane top 8, top cut, whatever you want to call it. This is okay, that's my speechlessness aside, let's backtrack and talk about the regional itself. Lugia dominated LAIC, right? 50% or so, something like that, of day 2 was Lugia. 6 out of the top 8 decks at LAIC were Lugia. So you kind of have to expect people to bring heavy Lugia counters to their next event, like Brisbane Regionals. Now, this goes one of two ways. Either everybody's playing Lugia counters and nobody's actually playing Lugia, and then the only thing that ends up in top 8 is Lugia counters, or the best players thought ahead, or really good players thought ahead, brought Lugia counters, hit those Lugia decks and not other things that these might struggle to, and then moved on, and here we are. Now we have this crazy top 8. So we're going to look at an infographic, or like a, graphic. It's not, I guess it's an infographic from Pokestats that they put on their Twitter, which if you don't follow them on Twitter, you should. They are very, very great at just telling us information about deck lists and what's doing well and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to take a look at the top 8 from Pokestats, and also, if you haven't already, do me a favor, subscribe, like, comment, all that kind of stuff. Tells YouTube this is a good channel and other people should watch it. So top 8 time. So here we go. We have several different decks that we want to talk about. There's quite a few. I mean, there are still 2 Lugias in this top 8, and there's a Mew, right? We expect Lugia, we expect Mew. We're kind of going to ignore those. One, because I don't know if the Lugia decks are something like crazy spicy. Like, is it like Lugia Duraludon, or is it just like straight Lugia Archeops, Stoutland, Yveltal Charizard? Don't really know. So we're going to ignore those. The Mew, it is worth noting that it is Mew Meloetta. I don't know if it's the Mew Meloetta and a couple of double turbo energies, probably. But the reason why Meloetta is making its way back into the meta is because it's pretty easy, especially with Forest Sealed Stone, to just turn 1, if you go second, knock out your opponent's active Pokemon with Meloetta, because you can release a Sparkle, attach an energy, and then just hit with Melodious Echo. You're doing 210, get a Power Tablet, Choice Belt, just 1, and now you're hitting for enough to KO pretty much any V that's going to see play. So that's kind of cool. If you're a Mew player, if you're anyone else, it's super annoying. So now, okay, those are the 3 big decks. The other ones, though, right? Everything else. Zekrom Flaafy Toolbox in the number 1 seed at 7-1. This is so amazing to me for 2 reasons. 1, who would have seen this coming? 2, who would have seen this coming? Oh my god. Okay, so why does Zekrom Flaafy box work? Well, the Zekrom that we're looking at is, I think, the Celebrations Zekrom that just paralyzes your opponent's active Pokemon. I think it does 140 or 120, and now I have to look it up. 130 damage. It's going to be on screen. I'm going to put it on screen. 130 damage, and it does 60 damage to itself. Your opponent's active is now paralyzed. That paralysis is a very big deal. Lugia decks don't really run any switch outs. So even if they do run like an air balloon, they can't manually retreat because paralysis prevents you from retreating and attacking for a single turn. So you can technically get 2 of those wild shocks off before you knock it. I guess you can get 3, right? Because you leave yourself with 10 health. So you could do 3 wild shocks before you knock yourself out. And something like a Zekrom Flaafy Toolbox is probably going to have some type of scoop up net, or because you can scoop up net, the energies go into the discard, and then you just accelerate them back onto something on the bench. But Flaafy, there you go. That's what Flaafy does, by the way. it uses the ability Dynamo to take basic lightning energies from the discard and attach them to one of your benched Pokemon. So, kind of cool. It's a little bit difficult to set up, but I guess they got the time, right? 130 is also enough to knock out a, a Lugia V-Star with a Choice Belt. If you run some other way, like Zigzagoon, you can Zigzagoon scoop up that Zigzagoon, Wild Charge, or Wild Shock, whatever it is. KO, kind of cool. Dunsparce, though, does remove Lightning Weakness, so I'm a little surprised to see this at number 1 when Dunsparce is such a good card. But you can just very easily boss up to Dunsparce, knock it out, take 1 prize. Okay, fine, your opponent's going to take 1 prize, but for the rest of the game, you're going to be taking 2 prizes or knocking out their Archeops, making it really hard for them to accelerate energies. So, that's kind of how that deck works. I'm very curious to see what the full list is going to look like, and believe me, we're going to play it when I find it. Next is, in 8th place, we're just going to kind of do the matchups. Yveltal Control, you can see everybody's names and where they're from. You don't see Lewis and Akira where they're from, but spoilers, they're all from Australia. So, Australia regionals, what do you expect? Yveltal Control, we saw something like this recently at LAIC. You use double turbo energies, crushing hammers, Miltanks, and just wreck your opponent's board, stall with Miltank, and just remove every ounce of special energy from your opponent's deck. It's really hard to deal with. Double Lumineon can be kind of nice for this, because what it does is it does 120 damage, and then it shuffles it and the energies back into the deck, so your opponent can't discard them. Because Lugia does not run recovery options. It's why once Dunsparce gets KO'd from Flaafy Box, that's it. You're weak to lightning for the rest of the game. If you have it to begin with, maybe you don't run it, maybe you prized it, it gets KO'd. Once it's out of play, it's gone forever. So, once those energies are gone, you really don't have a way of recovering them. The other thing is, it's super fast because it's a basic, and you attach a twin energy, you attach a double turbo energy, whatever, and now 3 of your energies are gone, which is really annoying. You need those energies. So Yveltal Control can be very, very annoying to deal with. Durant Mill is also super annoying to deal with. By the way, we see another Yveltal Control by Lewis Stevens, so 2 of them, not really surprising. They deal really well with something like Mew. They deal really well with anything that's going to run like Arceus decks that rely on double turbo energy can be kind of annoying to have that discarded. So things like that. Jerry wants to get in this room, so if you hear scratching, that's what it is. The Durant Mill. Now, Nick, I know Lugia decks want to discard Archeops, so Durant might help them do that. Sure, but you're also discarding your Lugia V and V stars, all of your energy, your Pokemon search. There's so many things that once they go into the discard, again, Lugia runs 0 recovery. Mew, outside of the 1, maybe 2 Silene that they run if they use Pal Pad, can get up to 4 cards back if they flip 4 heads. So realistically, they're going to get 1 or 2 cards back from Silene, and that's about all the recovery that deck has. So most decks, maybe they run Ordinary Rod or Claras, things like that. So that could be fine for things like, Lost Box decks, maybe the Flaafy Box, all that kind of stuff. Like, they can pretty reliably get Pokemon back. Rescue Carrier, Ordinary Rod, Clara. So maybe it isn't that big a deal, but for the Mews and the Lugias of the world, it's enormous. So if you just lock your opponents active because Galamine's a thing, and now they have to expend 4 energies to retreat, or 3 energies to get an Archeops out, they lose 3 energies because they got to discard them. Again, they do not run switch outs. So they discard 3 energies, and then you mill them, more cards, more energies. That's it. They only run a finite amount of energies, 14 to 16 energies typically. Something like Yveltal needs 5 energies to attack Charizard because Durant doesn't take any prize cards. Charizard needs 5 energies to attack. That's a lot of energies. Plus, you're going to be running things like Crushing Hammers, probably. You might run a Sydney or something. Or like, what's the other one that, Flannery to get rid of, Stadium and special energies. There's a lot of things Durant can do to make it super, super annoying. And the very last deck we're going to be talking about is Articuno Frosmoth box. Why does this work? Well, Articuno and things like Radiant Greninja, you just deal a lot of damage to the bench. Again, Manaphy's a thing. Mew doesn't run Manaphy, so that's one. Archeops or Lugia decks, again, they have the one of Manaphy, but once it's gone or if it's prized, that's it. You don't have access to it for the entire game. I sound very repetitive with this because it's true. That's just how it is. There is no recovery. Maybe future tournaments they'll start running one copy of Ordinary Rod, one copy of something to get those Dunsparce and Manaphy's back, because now everybody's countering Lugia and you kind of need it. Maybe we'll see that advancement or that change, and these decks don't do as well, but the surprise factor of them really makes it so that Lugia, the very consistent build that it is, can't really keep up. So what does Articuno Frosmoth box do? Well, Frosmoth lets you put water energies on your benched water Pokemon in any way you want. So you can just pile energies on top of stuff. You pile a bunch of energies, Articuno makes it so that your basic water Pokemon do 10 extra damage, and now all of a sudden, Moonlight Shuriken is hitting 2 Pokemon for 100 damage. Fine, you discard the 2 energy, but then you're just going to play something like Nessa to get 4 water Pokemon or energies from your discard back into your hand, and then you just throw them back onto the bench with something like Frosmoth. So let's say that the Greninja gets KO'd, you lose those energies. Okay, fine. I use Nessa, get my 3 water energies, get my Greninja, put a Greninja onto the bench, Frosmoth those energies onto it, put it into the active, and just rinse and repeat. And every turn you're hitting 2 Pokemon for 100 damage. Lugias typically don't play Sharon's Care, so you do that a couple of times. You do that 3 times, you've taken 4 prizes, and then you just have to take out some single prizes like the Archeops, things like that, and you can really try to outpace them in terms of prizing, because every turn they're only taking 1 prize. And it doesn't matter if they offer up a single prizer like Yveltal, because you're a single prize deck, and you're going to be targeting whatever you want. So you can knock out the Yveltal and a Dunsparce or a Manaphy or something like that, and then just take out 2 Lugia V-Stars, and that's it. That's the game. So those decks are kind of annoying. Then you have the Choice Belt on top of it, so you're doing extra to the active. You have maybe Crabominable in there. That's a pretty common inclusion. So you hit once with like a Cramorant or some type of, probably not Cramorant, but some type of single prize Pokemon, a Greninja, whatever, and then you throw a Crabominable down, and now you are just destroyer punching anything that's in the active, and now you don't have to do it in 3 turns, now you knock them out in 2, and it's going to be kind of hard for them to, maybe not a Lugia, but Lugia decks can pretty easily knock out that Crabominable, unless you throw like a Cape of Toughness on there, and then it's a little bit harder, depending on, how many energies did they put on that first one, do they know what they're playing against, maybe they try some stuff, maybe they don't run 4 powerful colors, maybe it's like a variant, I don't know, there's a lot of things that can go into it, but you just start hitting everything with something like a Greninja, and then Destroyer Punch to take some big KOs pretty quickly, and next thing you know, you are losing in that prize trade. So yeah, it can do some serious work when you're not expecting it. Maybe you're not teched for it, maybe you're not prepared for it. You drop your Manaphy's because who's playing Snipe? You drop your Dunsparce because, there's really not a ton of electric. Everybody's playing Lugia. Even something like Raikou isn't that big of a deal. So maybe you run 1 Manaphy or 1 Dunsparce. Maybe you're not running both. Maybe you're super brazen and not running either. I don't recommend that. Just, a lot of stuff. So there we go. That is the Brisbane Top 8. You can see that there were 182 players. And I know you might be like, Nick, that's nothing. We have online tournaments bigger than that. Yes and no. Yes, the player count isn't the highest, but you remember people are traveling to things like Toronto. There's the region, which is happening right now as I record this. There's the regional in Stuttgart. I think that's how you say it. It's another one that's going on, so maybe people are traveling there. And also, the concentration of very good players in Australia is very high. So because there's 182 players, the chances of you hitting a Henry Brand or a Natalie or something is very, very high because there's not that many people. Whereas, you go to Arlington coming up where I think there's over 1,400 people. You have people like me, not that good, and you have like all these random players. So yeah, the pool is much bigger, but that dilutes the number of extremely skilled players because there's so much more average players, if we're gonna be honest, which I can be honest with myself. So there you go, Brisbane Top 8, I hope you enjoyed, and let's wrap this up. That's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, found this informative. If you did, like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff. Let me know if you're not at Toronto, you're not going to Arlington or whatever. I want to know what deck you would be playing at one of these regionals. I'd be playing the Lugia deck. Personally, I'd be playing Lugia. It's a pretty straightforward Lugia build, but it does have a 1/1 Urshifu and 2 single strike energies in there because Duraldon scares me. Goodra scares me. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that you just want to just knock out immediately. Maybe you don't have the energies for your Yveltal because you put them on a Charizard or something, or you had to discard them, and now you can't really use the Yveltal, or you get one use out of it, and you still have to knock something. I don't know. I just got reasons for it. I also am biased, as you might be able to tell. So, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks so much, and I will see you next time.